Hi, I'm Liz Stetler. Here with me today is Jeremy Yost, our National Employment Director here at DAV, Disabled American Veterans. Jeremy has been doing this with the Employment Department for over 3 years. So I invited him to be part of our podcast series to discuss our new DAV Employment Hiring Guide, which helps employers of the military community understand the value and have practical tips and advice and checklists on how to go about doing so and make it a great place for them to want to stay and learn and work long term. Jeremy, thanks for being here.
Thank you.
So today, one of the topics we cover in the hiring guide is one that comes up really often in multiple different areas of our employment department, which is there's a lot of positivity and belief in the impact that veterans bring to the table, but the employers don't always know what they're looking for or what they're looking at when it comes to resumes and hearing about military experience. Can you explain a little bit about why that is?
Yeah, so one of the biggest questions that we have routinely is how to translate the information from the military over to the civilian sector. We speak a lot of military jargon. There's a lot of lingo that makes it very difficult to understand that the individual is probably a great fit for the role, but is not putting that in their resume or not providing that when they're talking to those individuals at those job fairs. So this can change by just what the individual did in the military, from the time that they served in the military, the companies they served, what MOSs, if it was one or multiple. And this is an ever-growing change where they might have a lot of experience, they're just not understanding how to put that to paper.
Exactly. And speaking of MOS stands for Military Occupation Specialty.
Yep.
And Jeremy, what was your MOS in the military?
So while I was in the military, I was Marine Corps infantry.
And say it in the code way.
Grunt.
The number.
Oh, 0311. My apologies.
Would you know what that was in 0311 if you weren't in the military? No. So that's a really good example of what employers are dealing with a lot is they'll see a number, they'll also hear, infantry or whatever and think, oh, this is a person who knows how to jump out of things and shoot things or whatever. What are some of the things that you learned?
A lot of it was teamwork, working with other individuals, whether it was one time or multiple times. Logistics, getting everything from point A to point B, not including us ourselves, but our gear, equipment, stuff of that nature. Collaboration with other companies or battalions, and then also last-minute decisions. Everything in the military can change on a whim, so being able to make those decisions and moving forward with them is always a positive when it comes to the civilian sector as well.
Exactly. And I think that's also a really good example of how having a conversation can also open a lot of doors and understanding to what the skills are that somebody might have learned and how to translate them into like real world, and not real world, but you know what I mean, into more, corporate and or workplace lingo. So can we talk a little bit about what some more examples of what they might call soft skills you could run into in the military community?
Yeah, some of the soft skills is teamwork, being able to work with others, whether that's one time or multiple times. Adaptability, because everything changes at any time in the military, at least most of us know that. So we always have to be able to be flexible and make sure that we're able to move forward with the next information or that next mission. Leadership, we're pushed into a leadership role at a very young age. Most of them are starting in that 19 to 22 range is when they're really starting to get into leadership. And whether that be a small unit of a couple individuals or an entire battalion, that happens sometimes. And then also with that integrity and discipline as well. So they're, again, going to be willing to come to work on time. They want to learn the jobs, and they're going to be focused on making sure that the company succeeds.
Sounds like a pretty good employer for any kind of company to have. Yeah. Can we talk a little bit about the hard skills also? So those would be skills that maybe do translate, but you wouldn't necessarily see that on their job description.
Yeah, a lot of them work with IT because a lot of the information that we're having is a lot of data, and we're making sure that we secure it, but also providing it properly as well. Logistics, again, whether you're infantry or motor T or another type of MOS, everything's logistics. Everything involves getting our stuff from point A to point B, getting the information to the right people, and they're going to be able to provide that to your company. Healthcare is one of them that a lot of people don't think of, because even though we have one MOS, we cross-train so often. So you might be infantry, but you might have military experience on putting an IV in, or ultimately helping with resetting a fracture or something of that nature as well. Engineering, where you're able to build the compound or build a small area where you're able to put your gear or something of that nature. And then also operations, making sure that the mission is being taken care of and ultimately moving forward.
Absolutely. Yeah. And like we said earlier, these are all things that every company needs, maybe not all in the same position, but, and it's, hard to know if that somebody has that if you don't have a conversation with them. One of the groups of people that come out of the military community that we see are very hard workers, very dedicated, but often overlooked, are the military spouses. Can you talk a little bit about some of the qualities that we see in the military spouses that come to our job fairs or use our services?
Yeah. A lot of the military spouses are flexible and adaptable. This is also shown on their resumes, but a lot of times people look at it as a bad way. When it comes to resumes, a lot of times they have gaps. And it's not because they don't care about their careers, but they're putting all their efforts into our military community, into their spouses, into the mission, making sure that these things are getting done. And this is not just at home, but also they a lot of times are volunteering to be able to take care of the team, the company, or the battalion in multiple different facets, not just by getting them what they're needing at home, but maybe care packages or taking care of their family while they're deployed, or getting the information out to the individuals that are here while they're overseas and not able to contact them. They're doing this all the time. They're the backbone of our military.
Absolutely. Yeah. So with military spouses, and honestly, with everybody in the military community, what are some recommendations that we have for them, or some guidance that we would have for them in order for them to better translate their skills for an employer?
When it comes to those gaps in the resume, tell them why. Provide the reasoning why, hey, we were relocated and I couldn't find a position, but also provide them what you were doing that you weren't being paid for. So those volunteering where you're helping out the command or doing of that nature, that can be on your resume. Just advise them that this was a non-paid position that you were doing because you couldn't find the paid position during that time. Being honest with them, that's a lot of it. And then showing them what you bring to the table. A lot of times, the military community doesn't tell them immediately, hey, I will have to be relocated, because some of these companies can transfer you, but you just got to be honest right off the bat.
Absolutely. And what can we tell to employers to help them when it comes to translating job seeker skills that are coming their way from the military?
Have an open mind, but also work with individuals that are already working for you that were in the military. They already know this jargon. They already know what MOSs are, and they can help you with learning what can be transferable. Mm-hmm. Another way is there's resources out there that are free that you can put an individual's MOS in, and it will tell you the transferable skills for the civilian sector. And have that conversation with them, because a lot of times when we're having a conversation, we hear something that individual said and be like, oh, that'd be perfect for this position. So taking the time and actually having those conversations.
Okay, so practical advice time. How can they have these conversations? How can we make that happen?
Yeah. Contacting us at jobs.dav.org or employment@dav.org. We can get you in contact to be able to join our job fairs. Right now we have 79 in person for 2026 and we have 16 virtual. So whether you want to do that in person or do that on the virtual platform, we have those options. Now, I would always say try to do in person first, because you're going to be able to actually have those one-on-one conversations face to face.
And for employers, obviously we talk a little bit about it here, but we have the hiring guide coming out with a lot of different items that employers can use. And one of those includes a small translation table of many of very common MOSs and many common skills that are aligned with it. So you can also use our hiring guide basically as a cheat sheet for a quick learning and catching up. But yeah, and then is there anything you would want, any last words you want to leave with job seekers who are really hoping to break into the civilian workforce this year?
Take the time to work with individuals that are in those communities or in the job that you're wanting, because they'll be able to help you translate your military experience to the civilian sector. There's multiple resources out for the veterans as well to be able to transfer your skills. Have a 30-second elevator pitch that you can tell to those employers on what you bring to the table. It's always best to tell them what you can bring than asking them what they have. That gives that genuine conversation back and forth. And always dress to impress. Make sure that you're dressed appropriately when you come to job fairs, because that first experience with somebody lasts a long time.
That's a really good point, though. The way you dress, the way you show up, the way you present yourself does make a very important first impression. Whether you're looking for a job that minute or even if you're just networking to look for something in the future, makes a big difference.
Exactly.
Well, thank you for being here today. I appreciate you taking the time. I hope our listeners here found this valuable, informational. And if you have more questions, want to learn more, you can look in our hiring guide online. It's at dav.org. And we will see you soon.